How's it going, guys? This is Titan, the voice of Heel Turn Wrestling, welcoming you to episode 0, the pilot, if you will, of the Heel Turn Wrestling podcast. Let's get into it. So, just to fill you in what we're doing here today, this test run is basically going to be a look forward, a look into 2023 and see where the wrestling business is heading, probably up to around WrestleMania time. Now, in future episodes, I should have a co-host with me, but this one I'm flying completely solo, so bear with me, this is my first time. Right, guys. So, before we get into the wrestling content, just a few favours I need from you before we continue. If you could please subscribe to us, while I swallow my tongue, if you could please subscribe to us on YouTube, that would be Heel Turn Wrestling on YouTube. You can find the link at twitter.com/Turn Wrestling or www.instagram.com/heel_turn_wrestling. If you go there, you click on the link. You click on the link to the YouTube, you subscribe to the channel, you like our videos, and you write us a nice comment telling me how wonderful my voice is and telling our editor Curtis how wonderful his editing is. Nothing authoritarian about that statement, but if you could do that for me, it would be wonderful. Thank you so much. Okay, we are here to talk about wrestling today, and first thing I want to cover is, before we start looking forward, I just want to briefly say 2022, what a strange year. What an absolutely strange year. Now, we are going to do an episode covering 2022, so I don't want to bury the lead on that episode, but 2022, the subjects we're going to cover in that episode, I mean, where do you start? I mean, you know, who'd have thought we'd live in a world where Steve Austin wrestled in 2022? It's bizarre. It's not even the biggest story of a year. That should be the biggest story of a decade. The biggest wrestling star possibly ever comes out of retirement, and it's not even the biggest story. It's mental. And there's you know, all the stuff with Vince. You know, all the stuff with Vince. That should be the biggest story on its own. And then you go over the other side of the street and you've got the Elite, and you've got CM Punk, and oh god. In all the years I've been a wrestling fan, and that's a lot of years. I'm not going to give away my age. If you know, you know, but it's been a long time. I can't remember a year where it's just been so insane. It's actually been insane, the stories that have come out in 2022. But again, I don't want to bury the lead, because me and my co-host Chet are going to cover that in an upcoming episode. But like I said, flying solo today we are looking forward. Now, at time of recording, we have the 2 remaining pay-per-views seemingly of the year fast approaching us. We have got Survivor Series War Games fast approaching, and we also, prior to that, have the AEW Full Gear pay-per-view. Now, in what is quite possibly, it's almost definitely, we're in a post-punk AEW world. The landscape in AEW at the moment, I guess we'll start with AEW. The landscape in AEW now, and if you go online, you're going to see a lot of the same sentiments. The landscape in AEW right now is very mid-2000s TNA, and nothing crystallised that more than Jeff Jarrett turning up on TV a few weeks ago. I mean, good Lord. I mean, back in the day, he was a guilty pleasure of mine, Jeff Jarrett. Jeff Jarrett as the country singer. Jeff Jarrett as the don't piss me off guy with the short hair and the guitar, and Deborah and Miss Kitty, which is never a bad thing. I was a fan of his. For all the people who said, "Oh, well, he's too old-fashioned, he's too," just the general criticisms that get aimed at Jeff. I was a Jeff Jarrett fan, but I was a teenager at the time. Back then, and Jeff Jarrett would have been in his physical prime. And I'm now no longer a teenager, and it'd be charitable to say that Jeff Jarrett is in his prime right now. He is, however, in pretty decent shape. So, we'll give the guy some credit. I mean, for anyone who endured Ric Flair's last match, I think a lot of people will say that he held that thing together. But him turning up on AEW TV, I know he's an executive there now, but that, to me, it just smacks of TNA, Dixie Carter, Vince Russo, TNA, and for all the goodwill AEW had this time last year, they were flying high. A WWE, legend in Mick Foley came out and said, "Why would a young person want to go to WWE with all the opportunities that are there in AEW?" And at the time, he was right. And within the space of a year, AEW have managed to, for lack of a better term, they've flushed it away. I really can't see how anyone objectively can look at AEW right now and say, yeah, that's the better product. That is the better product. That is the TV show's exciting, but it's quite frenetic. I don't want to rag on AEW, because since the beginning I've been a fan. A lot of friends, a lot of people who hopefully, as time goes on, you'll get to know as members of the Heel Turn Wrestling, like wider staff, if you like, actually turn back onto wrestling because of AEW. So, I'm not anti-AEW, but from where they were, the initial goodwill they got from the start, because obviously, this was at the time, this was competition to Vince, which everyone seems to be screaming for at some point or another. A second big national promotion to compete with Vince, because Vince's WWE was a very tired, stale product for a long time. It wasn't totally awful, but there was a lot of digging. There was a lot of digging through a lot of dirt there to get to the little gems, where AEW, especially at the start, it was gem after gem after gem, uncovering new stars like a Darby Allin, like an MJF, people who hadn't been exposed on the national or international stage. Obviously, from my voice, you can tell I'm from the UK. They're at least known on not only in North America, but they're known on this continent. Amazing. Big fan of Darby Allin, big fan of MJF. And they cultivated those stars, and those are two people who I do put up there in the echelons of, well-known celebrity level wrestling stars, like a Randy Orton, like a Roman Reigns, like just people you know. These are people who have excelled on national television. And I think Tony Khan, for that, should be given credit. However, you look at the position they got themselves into. Again, this time last year, you had a roster with, they just made what I thought were the three acquisitions that could propel them into the 1.5 to 2 million. Obviously, they weren't going to be able to do it on their own. The booking had to support them. The three acquisitions they made in and around All Out 2021 of CM Punk, Bryan Danielson, and Adam Cole, I genuinely thought that was going to be what would take them up into that 1.5 to 2 million range, because it would not only keep the AEW loyalists, hardcore fans, apologists. I hate to use that term, but again, I genuinely thought that would keep them definitely at the level they were at and propel them to the next realm, the next ratings realm, give them more eyeballs, more scope, and let's on the business side, give them more leverage when it comes to renegotiate their TV deal. We could say, look, we have just taken, we've just put under contract 3 of our competition's biggest stars from the last 10 years. Adam Cole and the Undisputed Era ran NXT for 4 years. CM Punk, a lot of people I know who hadn't watched WWE since the Attitude Era came back into wrestling because of CM Punk's pipe bomb and the best in the world character. Bryan Danielson, still to this day, maybe the best in-ring performer in the world. And they signed them all within a week of each other, 2 weeks of each other, maybe. I can't remember the exact dates. And they've managed to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. And it's a rut that I hope they can come back from, because wrestling, I think, has been a lot worse off without 2 promotions vying for talent, not vying for viewers, because I think a lot of people, by and large, I know there is a big sense of tribalism with AEW fans, obviously, especially on Twitter. Twitter isn't real life, but Twitter can become quite a nasty place for not just wrestling tribalism, but anything. I mean, just politics and football, soccer, if you're in the US. Twitter can turn anything nasty, but the tribalism in wrestling, I think most people for the most part are going to watch all wrestling. If you're into wrestling, you're going to watch wrestling. AEW, I don't think the quality has been there, especially in the past 6 months. I can't exactly put my finger on why. This will be on YouTube, so why don't you let me know. Let us know at Heel Turn in the comments below after you've subscribed, after you've liked the video. Let me know in the comments, where are AEW going wrong? What would you do? What would you do to fix the problem? I mean, there's a lot of ideas, but the one thing that's for sure, they don't need to sign anybody else. In my opinion, they need to find a way of utilising the talent they have, because they do have talent. They do have a lot of talent, but a lot of it is being marginalised, and a lot of it is being ill-served by the frenetic way that the TV show is booked. Dynamite feels borderline schizophrenic, and Rampage, oh wow, that is not destination viewing. And if you've got an hour of television, you need to make that hour count. And that hour needs to mean something, just like the 2 hours on Wednesday do. That needs to count. And I don't think Tony Khan and his staff are utilising the platform they have to the best of their ability. But again, this is my opinion. Any disagreements, feel free. We will discuss it gladly with you in the comments. Me, my editor, and the wider Heel Turn Wrestling staff, we will gladly discuss it with you in the comments. That's AEW. Well, actually it's not, because we said 2023. Where do they go in 2023? I don't know, because I really want them to focus the TV show. Focus the TV show and make the TV show matter. Get your 2 or 3 headline storylines. The ones that are going to draw you money, the ones that are going to intrigue you. You know, you've got a world heavyweight title there, you've got your tag team title, you've got your women's title. And while we're on the subject of titles, way too many titles, and this is not just an AEW criticism, although they have added quite a few in the last year, especially. Trios title, All Atlantic title, all the Ring of Honor stuff, all the Ring of Honor titles, they need to be gone like yesterday. It's way too much. When everyone's got a belt, they mean nothing. I'm not the first person. I definitely won't be the last person to say that. There are way too many titles. With everyone that gets added, the less important they become. Where do AEW go into 2023? It's difficult because after Full Gear, the next pay-per-view will be, I believe, Revolution, which will be either March or February, which at the moment I'm not too sure. I need to check the date on that. Where do they go? Sorry. It's difficult because, again, without advocating for, you know, people to lose their jobs, which I don't want, it's hard to see how they're going to steer the course. I'll just end the AEW portion of the podcast by saying that they need to focus their storylines more. They need to do what I need to do with this podcast, and that's focus. Focus. Sorry, like I said, this is my first time, so please bear with me, guys. Yeah, they do need to focus their product. They need to focus their storylines more, and they need to take advantage of the talent that they have. And I will say this, and this is going to sound like a divisive thing. Not that Tony Khan or anyone affiliated with AEW is going to hear this, because I mean we're an upstart YouTube company. Why would we? Why would anyone of any, you know, level listen to this? But if I was talking to Tony Khan now, I'd say, Tony, stop listening to the people you have been listening to, even if it means he trusts just his own instincts. But he needs to stop appealing to just the Wrestling Observer crowd, because that is a minute portion of the audience that is out there. There is a large number of people in this world who are predisposed to turn on the TV and watch wrestling. But not all of them are watching wrestling right now, because maybe WWE under Vince, or maybe even recently under Triple H, have turned off to WWE. There is an audience out there. You just need to capture them. You just need to find a way to capture them. I don't have the answer as to how you do it. But what is happening right now certainly isn't getting the job done. So appealing to the smallest audience and appealing to the small segment of fans, which you already have, they're going to be there no matter what. Just need to broaden the scope of their storylines, and just try and focus on getting your big stars over on a wider scale, because everyone to that audience is already over. You need to get people who are over to the wider populace, people who are known and appreciated and held up by the wider wrestling audience, and bring them over to Rampage, to Dynamite. AEW has a lot of potential. I just hope in 2023 they can harness some of that and definitely get back some of the goodwill, because they have definitely lost that in the past year. On the other side of the break, we are going to talk about WWE and where they go into 2023. And we'll also finish off by speaking about where we at Heel Turn intend to go in 2023 as well. Stay with us, guys. We'll be right back. Back on the podcast with me, Titan, and we are now going to talk about WWE heading into 2023. Now, at time of recording, we are fast approaching the War Games pay-per-view, the Survivor Series pay-per-view, featuring not one but two War Games matches, one for the men and one for the women. Teams have been partially announced for both matches. Both matches will obviously, I'm assuming, one will headline and one will open the show. I think it's a good move. I think it's a move that Triple H, I think, advocated for this to Vince a while back, and Vince wasn't going for it because it wasn't Vince's creation. And Triple H took it and ran with it in NXT, and it became a staple. It became a staple NXT event. And again, it just offers a different look. It offers a different arena, so to speak, for the guys to do combat in, and the girls. I was always a fan of the original War Games, the one in the WCW. I've always thought that match type is great. I still think it would look better with a roof. I know the reason there isn't a roof is so, you can dive off the cage, which is fine. But again, I'm a bit of a traditionalist, so that's my opinion. However, WWE going forward, and again, Survivor Series, I'm sure will be a good pay-per-view. I have no doubt about that. And for the record, like I was saying previously about AEW, I think that'll be a good pay-per-view. The one thing you can say for sure about both wrestling companies is when the lights shine the brightest on your pay-per-views or premium live events, both companies can and usually do deliver on their big shows. I'd like to think we could all agree on that. Going forward into 2023, to me, there is a problem in WWE as to what they do with Roman Reigns. And with Roman Reigns being not only the Universal, but the WWE Champion as well, you have one man in that company, and yes, he is in, the top heel group. He's the top dog, the big dog, if you will, in that group. Where do you go with Roman Reigns? And with him holding both titles, are those titles now interlinked to where the next guy to beat him, do they win both titles? Because if that's the case, I know it's a branding thing, but should we just go back to one title? Should the titles be split? Should Roman, as a double champion at WrestleMania, for example, if he still has both belts, should he be made to defend both? One on night one and one on night two? Should he be forced to face not only the winner, but should there be two winners of the Royal Rumble? Now, again, as a traditionalist, that doesn't sit well with me. But if it came down to the last two people in the Rumble, and they said, right, you're going to face Roman on night one, you're going to face Roman on night two. Obviously, again, for us traditionalists, and again, just for some people in general, people might not like that, but you're now in a situation where you've got a guy who has toppled everybody in the company. Everybody who's been put in his way has been beaten. So now we have no reason to believe that anyone can beat Roman Reigns. Now, in the role of champion, I think he does a fantastic job. I was never a massive anti-Roman Reigns guy, even when it was post-Shield and it was the done thing to boo Roman. It was very clear that he was, again, ill-served by the booking. when he was being written for personally by Vince McMahon, a 70-plus-year-old man writing for a guy in his early 30s. There's a disconnect there somewhere. And for all the good that Roman's doing now, that stuff was, well, we know, we all saw it, that stuff was awful. It was. But now we're getting to see what Roman Reigns can do. I think he is a excellent world champion. But WWE have now booked themselves into a corner where, do they pull the trigger on switching the title this coming WrestleMania season? Because he's successfully, in the last, let me think, 2 WrestleManias, I believe, he successfully overcome a triple threat match, and he successfully overcome Brock Lesnar. So for him to drop the title to somebody who isn't as well established as a Brock Lesnar, who has been his perennial foe for the best part of, I mean, we're going on, 7 years since their first title match at WrestleMania 31, which is still, to me, their best match they've had. It seems like they seem to have a match every 6 months since then. But that is by far their best match. The first one, like in films, the first one is usually the best, and that was most definitely the best. However, WWE, under Vince McMahon, they did not cultivate main event stars. They put all their eggs in the Roman Reigns basket and were quite happy to go along with an increasingly part-time John Cena, a permanently part-time Brock Lesnar. They would fill in the gaps with a Samoa Joe, with a Braun Strowman, a Bray Wyatt, later on it would be Drew McIntyre. And all of those guys have been defeated handsomely by Roman Reigns, to the point where none of them have been booked in any way where you'd say that guy deserves a rematch. Maybe Drew McIntyre, based on the Clash at the Castle finish, where we saw Solo Sikoa cost McIntyre the title. Maybe Drew, but Drew McIntyre as his main event opponent, again for WrestleMania, it doesn't sit well with me. It doesn't sit well with me, that main event. It's not something that grabs me and says, yes, that's the main event. That's the main event. If you were going to pull the trigger on Drew, you would do it on home soil. Well, Wales, he's Scottish, Wales, it's the UK. It's as home soil as it's as close to home soil as he was going to get. You would have pulled the trigger then. They didn't. They decided to stick with Roman Reigns, which is fine. But in the meantime, and I understand Triple H is trying to repopulate the roster and get all of his chess pieces in place for his vision and what his roster will be able to do. But the one thing the roster is still missing is credible opponents for Roman Reigns. Now, the aura of The Rock does hang over next year's WrestleMania. Now, on a personal level, myself and a few of my friends, again, a couple of whom you may or may not hear from in the coming weeks and months, a few of us are going to be attending WrestleMania in Los Angeles live in 2023. And The Rock, although nothing has been announced, until something is announced or shot down, the aura of The Rock does hang over WrestleMania. Now, if The Rock is coming back, The Rock is only coming back to face one man. That man is Roman Reigns. Obviously, there's the family connection. Obviously, there is there's a built-in storyline. You've got this relatively young, compared to The Rock, guy Roman Reigns telling everyone he's the tribal chief, he's the head of the Samoan dynasty. Every Samoan wrestler previously is beneath him, under him, and they've been very strategic in not mentioning The Rock because they know that there is money there. Now, for the last 2 years, I think it's been just over 2 years since LA was announced as the venue for WrestleMania 39. So they must have done that with eyes on getting The Rock to be definitely a part of the show, which I think he will be no matter what. He will be a part of WrestleMania 39 in Los Angeles. Will he wrestle? He hasn't said he won't. He also hasn't committed. There was a couple of interviews he did during his Black Adam press tour over where they spoke about wrestling, and he was asked several, either direct or indirect, will you be at WrestleMania? And he didn't say he wouldn't be. He didn't say he wouldn't wrestle. He didn't say he would. I think as fans, you would want to know that, because if he is going to be Roman's opponent and his only opponent, again, going back to what we said earlier about the possibility of having two opponents, one on each night, there could be every chance that he faces The Rock in a grudge match, a family feud match that doesn't have anything to do with the title, because The Rock isn't going to be coming back to win the belt and then go on the house show loop with the belt. That is 100% not going to happen. But it's very hard to look past. If The Rock does come back, then if he's going to be wrestling Roman Reigns and Roman Reigns is still the champion, if he's going to be wrestling for the title, does Rock not have to win the Royal Rumble? I think that's the thing. I think that's the thing that's really confusing me, because if Roman Reigns holds both titles, that means that the Royal Rumble will determine who faces Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. Now, whoever wins that match should be Roman Reigns' opponent. So, if I was Triple H, if I was the WWE higher-ups, I would want a 2-show commitment from The Rock. I would want the Royal Rumble, even if it's at number 30. Come in, lay the smacketh down, eliminate whoever else is in there, rock bottom, people's elbow, throw them over the top, bish, bash, bosh, job done. If that's the way they're going to go. The point I'm getting to, with all the Rock rambling, is if we have not seen The Rock by the Royal Rumble, we can count out a Rock wrestling return for WrestleMania, in my opinion. Because I don't know how you get around again, there's always ways you can book around it. It's wrestling. You can book anything any particular way. But I don't know how they plausibly get around the Royal Rumble winner faces the champion speed bump obstacle without The Rock being the guy to do it. Now, I'm not saying that The Rock has to be his opponent, but again, while that still hangs in the air, it has to be addressed. Now, the way things were originally looking, if you were to go back to the summer, I think people were all looking at Cody Rhodes being the guy to dethrone Roman Reigns this coming WrestleMania. Obviously, Cody Rhodes being injured may have scuppered those plans. Now, Cody Rhodes in June suffered his pectoral tear, which, if you saw the pictures, that was some injury. and he's on the shelf until at least January, and at least January. So some people might say, well, he could be there for the Royal Rumble. He also couldn't be. He also might not be quite ready by the Rumble. Now, in the Rumble, you can hide, and you can work around injuries, but if Cody Rhodes is the guy they've got pegged as the winner of the Rumble, and subsequently the winner in the WrestleMania main event, you want to protect him. That is definitely food for thought. You want Cody Rhodes to be as safe as possible, because the injury he suffered is a difficult one to come back from, and one too many pectoral tears, that could be a career ender if it's not properly looked after. But in the meantime, another contender almost from nowhere, which might be the one I'm angling towards. I can't see it, but might be the one I'm angling towards. Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn in the last 3 or 4 months, not as an in-ring performer, and let's face it, Sami Zayn is an incredible professional wrestler. Just the nuts and bolts of a professional wrestling match. Sami Zayn is an incredible professional wrestler. But Sami Zayn as part of the bloodline, Sami Zayn as a character, Sami Zayn as an honorary Uce, Sami Zayn as basically the buffer between Roman Reigns and the Usos, Jey Uso in particular, the comedy foil. Sami Zayn has been incredible. Sami Zayn has been fantastic. I mean, you can't look on wrestling Twitter, you can't look online, wrestling forums, wherever you want to consume your wrestling content, you can't go very far without seeing just Sami, a clip of Sami, or like screenshots of Sami cracking up his bloodline members. Not to pop them, not to, throw them off or take them off script. It's just his delivery, his comic timing has been incredible. And I think there is an expiry date on Sami in the bloodline, and I think that's always been the plan. Once he's outlived his usefulness, I don't think Sami is long for being a member of Roman's crew there. Now, it has been rumoured and bandied around, and I've heard it on several YouTube channels. The Solar Monster Sounds Off. You should definitely check out that YouTube channel if you get the chance. That the way to go with Sami post Bloodline would be Sami gets excommunicated from the Bloodline, and then he reunites with Kevin Owens to dethrone the Usos at WrestleMania, which sounds like a fantastic way to go, and a way I would definitely go. But would you, and I'd like to see this in the comments, would you say that Sami's work and Sami's popularity and the way Sami has conducted himself, and just from a loyalty perspective, and just as a not loyalty, what am I thinking of? Just from his tenure, he's been there nearly 10 years, and he's been saddled with some really good things, especially in NXT. He's been saddled with some really good situations and stories, not so much on the main roster. But now Triple H is back in charge. He knows that Sami is one of those guys who, when given something, he always knocks it out of the park every time. Do you roll the dice on Sami Zayn? And do you have him be the one to topple Roman Reigns? As an underdog storyline, it has unbelievable potential, but is it stretching the realms of is it possible, with Roman having demolished everybody, but But with Sami Zayn, and he's always had that lovability to him as a character. This could top the Daniel Bryan of 2014, the Yes Movement. This could top Kofi Mania in terms of upsets, in terms of, that feel-good moment at the end of a WrestleMania. It is all set up, and if I didn't know better, and I probably don't, I have no inside information, but if I didn't know better, my instincts would tell me that they are setting up for a Sami Zayn versus Roman Reigns main event somewhere down the road. Now, that could be the case. Is it going to be at WrestleMania? Right now, I'm saying no. It could be at the Rumble. It could be at the Elimination Chamber. It could be after Mania. It could be never. But Sami Zayn has definitely got a title match, a main event appointment with the Tribal Chief down the road. Where it happens, I guess we'll just have to stay tuned and find out. But that's the main crux of where WWE is going. It is all centered around the bloodline. There is obviously a lot of other stuff going on. There's the Bray Wyatt return, which initially was received fantastically. I think he's one of those guys who, when he came back, it was vindication, because I think a lot of people really enjoyed the Bray Wyatt character. And again, he became victim of Vince losing patience with something he didn't understand. So he took it out on the talent, which obviously meant Bray going away for just over a year. I think the character is one that people adore and really enjoy. As far as the character development at the moment, we're obviously not seeing cult leader Bray Wyatt. We're not seeing Fiend Bray Wyatt right now. We're seeing a lot of this, is it Uncle Howdy? So where that's going to go is, what's his first feud going to be? So far, it seems to be he's feuding with somebody on the screen who keeps interrupting him. We don't know a lot about Bray Wyatt, but again, it's great to have him back in the fold, because it's always intriguing television with Bray Wyatt. Excuse me. Away from that, other WWE happenings. There's a lot of good going on in WWE. Unpopular opinion, I'm a big fan of Karrion Kross. I don't think the Drew McIntyre feud is helping him, and that's not Drew's fault. And again, I'm a big fan of Drew. I'm a big fan of Karrion Kross. I don't think they suit each other as opponents, and I definitely think the Crown Jewel and Extreme Rules matches have kind of borne that out. But again, Karrion Kross, another one who Triple H has brought back. He was unfairly, unceremoniously removed from WWE. And I definitely think he deserved a second chance. He definitely has potential. And especially the presentation with Scarlett. Again, never a bad thing to see Scarlett Bordeaux on our televisions. But his presentation, it is a main event presentation. There is main event potential there, but again, circling back, Roman Reigns has the main event scene locked down. Can I see a Karrion Kross? Can I see a Drew McIntyre? Can I see a Bray Wyatt? Can I see anybody taking Roman Reigns down? Now, of course, it's wrestling. You can book anything you want. If Triple H decided tomorrow that Otis was going to be the guy to take down Roman Reigns, all he'd have to do is book it. Just say, yep, that's what's going to happen. On an episode of Main Event that you can only see on the network, Roman Reigns is going to drop the title to Otis. Now, as a business decision, well, I think the stock price would definitely plummet through the floor. But it's wrestling. You can book anything, but in terms of plausibility, no, I can't see it. So, as far as Triple H's WWE, going forward into 2023, it's all heading towards WrestleMania. Now, the main event scene, I guess in a way, it's nice that we don't know where it's going. You'd hope they would. I'm confident, and again, I have a vested interest in WrestleMania because I'm going. I'm looking forward to WWE going forward because there always seems to be a bit of intrigue. The only downfall with WWE in terms of being a viewer is 3-hour Raw. That extra hour needs to go. I know they won't because they get an extortionate amount of money for that third hour, but 3-hour Raws need to, as we say, do one. We need to get rid of that third hour Raw. But I'm definitely more positive about WWE's trajectory going into 2023 than I am about AEW's. Now, hopefully, the rising tide from WWE, as they're on the upswing, can bring AEW with it. Rising tide raises all ships. Hopefully, that's what we get going into 2023, because competition in wrestling is healthy, and we want a healthy wrestling business, because without a wrestling business, I'm not on here talking to you guys. And I want to keep doing this, and I want to keep watching wrestling and enjoying wrestling, and I hope you guys do too. On the other side of the break, we're going to give a quick rundown of what we've got for you here on Heel Turn Wrestling in the coming weeks and months. Catch up with us just after this short break. Coming to the end now of episode 0. I'd like to thank you all for sticking around as long as you have, especially with a podcast novice like myself. Just want to fill you in on what we're going to be going to do over the next few weeks and months here on Heel Turn Wrestling. Obviously, the plan with this episode and subsequent future episodes is to incorporate a podcast as well as our weekly YouTube content on the channel. We hope to push this podcast out to Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, all the other podcast providers. We will see how that goes. Also, we'd like to hear from the people who are listening, because we're very free form. We're in the very, very early stages of coming up with content. We do have some content in the can for the subsequent weeks and months, but we do want to be interactive with you guys. If there's any subjects you want us to cover, I mean, we will do list videos, we will do retrospectives, we will be covering retro, we will be doing like a retro review on certain big shows or notable moments in wrestling history. I can reveal that we are going to be doing on episode number 1, the official first episode of the Heel Turn Wrestling podcast, we will be reviewing a pay-per-view from approximately 25 years ago that does have a little bit of significance for me and my co-host, who you will hear from at some point. He was unavailable to do episode 0 with me tonight, but we will be reviewing a very notable WWF at the time pay-per-view from 25 years ago on episode number 1, and you won't want to miss that. That's got some excellent stories, and that's got some excellent content that we hope to provide for you here on Heel Turn Wrestling. But Again, we'd like to hear from you. If you do have any ideas, anything you'd like us to cover, any sort of video you'd like us to try out, anything you'd like to see referenced, any particular wrestler, show, angle from the business side or from the in-ring side, anything you'd like us to cover or you'd like to see, just in the comments below, just let us know what you would like to see from us and we will do our best to incorporate it. Right, guys, I am going to go before I outstay my welcome. Thank you once again for listening to me on the pilot episode of the Heel Turn Wrestling podcast. I've been Titan, you've been fantastic. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe and hit the notification bell for more information on when we've dropped some new content. I'm Titan, you guys take care, catch you on the next one.